Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hari Om. Okay, let's get Sarika, you're on mute.
Sahana vavatu sahano bhunaktu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayini Amba Tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Talya Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vaitrikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritaduhe Namaha. Sarvopanishadu Gavo Dukta Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhukta Dugdam Geetamritam Mahat. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Bhishma Drona Tada Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalya Grahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavai Rananadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parasharya Vacha Saroja Mamalam Geetartha Gantotkatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikata Sambodhana Bodhitam Loki Sajjana Shatpareiraharaha Pipiyamanam Mudha Bhuya Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Tunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vede Sangapadakramupanishadir Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatina Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om. So, Arjuna had the vision of Bhagavan in entirety, both in terms of time and space and in terms of objects and beings, infinitesimal and infinite, here and everywhere. And then he sees destruction in the very form of Bhagavan. Now, Arjuna had heard about God being the originator, the sustainer, the destroyer. He had heard about that. The Srishti Karta, or the originator, the Sthiti Karana, the sustainer, and the Layasthana, the destroyer. All of this he had heard about, he was aware, like we are all aware. But now he is seeing before him Bhagavan in the form of the Layasthana, in the form of the destroyer. And he is terrified. And he wonders, who are you? Are you the coward friend of mine? Are you my charioteer in battle? Are you my guru who taught me about my nature? Are you the Karunamurti Bhagavan who taught me about your own nature? Are you this horrific form that I am seeing right now? Who are you? All these questions go through Arjuna's mind. Now, see, Bhagavan in his calm form, beautiful, charming, and that's how we all depict Bhagavan in all our images of Bhagavan, right? The murtis, the drawings, the paintings, everything. He attracts in this form. He attracts devotees. Being drawn to him is devotional worship. You feel that pull, the magnetic, the aspect of feeling closer to him, being drawn towards him. His terrific form, on the other hand, like, for example, the Narasimha Avatar, right? That arrests the attention. That while the beautiful form draws the devotees to him, the terrific form arrests the attention of the worshipper, of the devotee. The fully qualified devotee is one who absorbs the sublime as well as the terrific forms of Bhagavan. So when you feel actually drawn towards the terrific form, we can say that one is a fully qualified devotee. And this comes from the understanding of the nature of Bhagavan. Complete, thorough understanding of the nature of Bhagavan. When we fully grasp this aspect of who Bhagavan is, then we are able to be drawn towards him irrespective of the way he is depicting himself or presenting himself or manifesting himself. So Arjuna is now going through this deep exploration. He is a very good student and he has understood this really, really well. And this Arjuna is now asking Bhagavan. He was wondering about who are you, Bhagavan? And he asks the question, he dares to ask, so to say, because in front of him is this terrific form, this terrifying form that is making him shiver with fear. And in that he gains that equanimity, and with that equanimity and poise, he asks Bhagavan. So we'll go to the next verse.
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपः
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपः
नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद
नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्
न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्
न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपः नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम् न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्
आख्याहि, आख्याहि, tell me, me is me. Ko, who? Bhavan, you are. Ugra Rupaha, fierce in form. Namostute, salutations to you, salutations be to you. O Devavara, O Supreme God, Prasida, have mercy. Ichchami, I wish, Vigyatum, to know, Bhavantam, you, Adyam, the original being. Indeed, he, indeed. Na prajanami, not, I know not. Prajanami na, I know not. Tava, your pravrittim, purpose. So Arjuna says, tell me who you are, so fierce in form. Salutations to you, O Supreme God. Have mercy. I desire to know you, the original being. Indeed, I know not what your purpose is. So a form that is so terrifying, it is like a million, zillion, infinite Narsimha avatars appearing together all at once. That kind of a terrific form. Arjuna is not only terrified of this form of Bhagwan, he is also wondering, what is this Bhagwan going to do now? What is the purpose? Why has he acquired this form? Acquiring this form of destruction, where I can see the entire world kind of getting destroyed into him, what is he going to do? And with this supplication of Arjuna, Bhagwan answers. He responds to him and he answers.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddaha
Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddaha
Lokan samahartumiha pravrittaha
Lokan samahartumiha pravrittaha
Hritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve
Hritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve
Yeva stita pratyanikeshu yoddhaha
Yeva stitha pratyanikeshu yoddhaha.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddaha Lokan samahartumiha pravrittaha Ritipi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve Yeva stita pratyanikeshu yoddhaha.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha, the worshipful Lord, he said, Asmi, I am, Kalaha, time. What time? Lokakshaya krita, world destroying. Praviddaha, the mighty. Actually, we should read it. I am Kalaha, I am time. I am the mighty time, world destroying time. I am the mighty world destroying time. Asmi Pravriddaha, I am the mighty. Lokakshaya krita, world destroying time, Kalaha. Iha, here, now. So Arjuna had also wondered, what are you doing? What is your purpose? Iha, now. Pravrittaha, engaged. Samahartum, in destroying. Lokan, the worlds. I am the mighty world destroying time, engaged here in destroying all the worlds. Even without rite, tvam, you, sarve, all these warriors, yoddhaha, vashtitaha, who are arrayed here, all these yoddhas who are arrayed here, even without you, these yoddhas in hostile armies, pratyanikeshu, in your hostile armies, all of these, bhavishyanti na bhavishyanti or bhavishyanti na, shall not live. So the blessed Lord is telling Arjuna, I am the mighty world destroying time, now engaged in destroying the worlds. And Arjuna, even without you, none of the warriors arranged in hostile armies shall live. So we briefly touched upon this the last time also when Varshini was here. She's gone back to the US now. When she was here, she was talking about Robert Oppenheimer. As he witnessed the first ever detonation of a nuclear weapon, even before Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when the testing was going on, and Robert Oppenheimer, he is the father of the nuclear weapon, one of the fathers of the nuclear weapon. When he witnessed the first ever explosion, this is the verse that came into his mind. And then he also spoke about the million, billion, trillion suns all shining at once. We have seen that earlier in this chapter. So Oppenheimer never actually converted to Hinduism. It's not because of that this verse came into his head. But he did find solace. He did find useful philosophy in Hindu scriptures that helped him weave his life around those. He was doing a very tough job. Imagine, he probably saw himself as Arjuna. And the true import of this verse gave him that comfort, that feeling of being Arjuna-like, which is in spite of him, whether he is there or not, whether he is one of the fathers of the nuclear bomb or not, what is happening would happen anyway. It's in his hands, the Lord's hands, Bhagavan's hands. See, the construction of anything is not possible without the corresponding destruction of its own previous condition. The world is created by a continuous process of destruction. Today rose after yesterday's demise, or yesterday ceased to be. The child dies for the youth to be born. The youth goes away for old age to take its place. So time consumes everything, constantly, relentlessly, mercilessly also. It just consumes everything. It's like, when you climb these mountains, one of my favorite examples, right? When you're down in the plains, even a speed breaker is an inconvenient barrier to cross. And some of the molds, and suppose you're trekking in the plains, these big humps on the earth, you find them as big obstacles. But when you go up and look from down to bottom, everything is a plain. You don't see these small little humps. It all looks like a one vast plain piece of land. In the infinitude of time, all happenings are swallowed. They are consumed. Just like these small little hills, hillocks, bumps are consumed by height, the vision from height. Similarly, time consumes all happenings, all occurrences, all events. This is Mahakala. The power that visibly displays itself behind this constructive destruction is the fundamental power that rules and governs all our lives. This verse actually, when I was reading it, every time it just reminds me that this is a beautiful example, a beautiful depiction of actually showing a lot of what today's modern science is discovering that has been talked about so much in the past, over 5,000 years ago. And this verse is also a wonderful example. So I'll take a minute or two to kind of draw this parallel. See, we are talking about constructive destruction. Constructive destruction means what? Today coming from yesterday. So all constructive destruction eventually restores the universal order. Whether it is the nuclear bomb or whether it is Corona, whatever it may be. Ultimately, the order comes back. As per science, any system is able to work. See, a system is non-existent unless it is quote unquote working. Things are happening within that system. Any system is able to work when thermal energy gets converted into mechanical energy. We'll not go too deep into science. You can all look it up. But this conversion is what enables the system to thrive, to exist, to function, to be. If it doesn't, then it's not existent. It's not even there. Unavailability of thermal energy for conversion into mechanical energy, that leads to destruction of the system. That leads to random existence. And the random existence then leads to destruction. This in scientific terms is called heat death. the random helpless, now I'm drawing the parallel, okay? The random helpless depiction of everything, whatever is there to see in this creation, in this form of Vishwarupa, as Arjuna sees. He sees everything, here and now, everywhere, infinitely, infinitesimally. So he is seeing everything. This random helpless, and all these which are there in Bhagavan's form, they are not doing anything. The thermal energy is not getting converted into mechanical energy. They are helpless in that existence in the Vishwarupa. That system is not able to work. Completely helpless. So what a beautiful depiction, of what science is talking about today. Another thing, science also says, as per the second law of thermodynamics, it says that entropy increases with time. Entropy is what? Entropy is the thermal energy not being able to convert into mechanical energy. That increases with time and goes on increasing with time till a point in time where the heat death of the universe occurs. This is one of the theories of science. Like Big Bang is a theory of creation, heat death is the theory of destruction of the universe. And you can actually look up in Google, there is a time chart that starts from Big Bang and goes into heat death. Okay, it's quite interesting to look at that. It's like a graphical timeline description of the events through this beginning as in Big Bang and the end as in heat death. And Bhagavan says, Kalosmi. This power is how Sri Krishna describes himself. I am the mighty world-destroying time. And when he says that he is currently engaged in destroying the world, and that the hostile army will anyway cease to exist whether Arjuna is there or not, in spite of Arjuna, he is describing the purpose of what he had said earlier, if you recollect. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatushrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. For the protection of the noble, for the destruction of the ignoble, with the purpose of re-establishment of dharma, I am born whenever required, as and when required. So if this is the case, in spite of you, Arjuna, this is going to happen, then why should Arjuna engage in this carnage? Anyway, it's going to happen. My mother mentioned my daughter tattooing this verse near her heart, on her rib, next to her ribs, right? Last time, close to her heart. So I'm quite proud of her for having resonated with this and, feeling the importance. This is one of the most powerful verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So what is it that we as human beings should keep close to our heart? What is the message that Bhagavan is giving to us? That lies in the next verse.
Tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva.
Tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva.
Jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samriddham.
Jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samriddham.
Mayyaivaite nihita purvameva.
Mayyaivaite nihita purvameva.
Nimitta matram bhavasavya
Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin.
Tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva. Jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samriddham. Mayyaivaite nihita purvameva. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin.
Tasmat, therefore, tvam, you, uttishta, get up. How many times Krishna has told Arjuna, get up, get up, get up. So many times we have seen. Again he repeats. Therefore you get up. Jitva, having conquered. Shatrun, enemies. Labhasva, obtain. Yashaha, fame. Bhungshva, enjoy. Samriddhim, the unrivaled. Rajyam, kingdom. Eva, surely, O Arjuna, Maya, by me. evaite, even these, nihattaha, have already been, nihattaha purva, have already been slain. All these, surely they have been slain by me. You get up and enjoy the fame. You get up and enjoy the unrivaled kingdom. You fight. Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Bhava, be. Nimitta matram, an instrument. Savya sachin, O ambidextrous expert. So Bhagavan says, therefore, you get up, having conquered the enemies, obtain fame and honor. Enjoy thy unrivaled kingdom. Surely by me, these have been slain already. You be an instrument in my hands, O ambidextrous expert, archer. Nimitta matram bhava, be an instrument. This is the lesson for all of us. This is the message for all of us. Anything that happens will happen. Anything that is going to happen will happen. Anything that is happening is happening. Anything that has already happened has happened. We take the pleasure, the privilege, and the success of being an instrument. Take up the role of being an instrument to carry out his plans. So why don't we think of it this way? Because it's really our ego. The only thing that comes between actually being an instrument in his hands to carry out his plans and not being so is our ego. Because we think that I did it. I am the boss. I do it. The sense of I is nothing but the ego, but our ego. That prevents us from accepting the fact that it is actually the divine who is playing out its omnipotence, while we egoistically think that we are doing. In each of our activities, if we actually get deep into it and analyze, okay, once it is done, let's do a post-mortem analysis of any activity, we find that our actual contribution is meager compared to what nature has supplied and what that unseen hand has achieved for us. The bigger our achievement, the bigger that unseen hand and the role of that unseen hand is. Take up anything, take up at a society level, at a world level also. If we look at our lives, how it has changed in the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whether it be automation, the field of automation, whether it be the field of medicine, whether it be the field of technology, whether it is these roaring engines that are taking my daughter within 24 hours from one end of the earth to the other end, whether it is these wonder drugs that is now making sure that looks like the third wave of this, what is it called, this pandemic is not as severe in terms of, it's almost like a viral fever. That's what it feels now. Hopefully that's true. Time will tell, but that's how it looks like now in terms of the patients that are going through it and recovering, and more increased human immunity. So these wonder drugs, whether it is the Zoom call, even in spite of the lockdown, we are still able to have a productive satsang. Children go through online classes, education is continuing. It is not completely stopped, though, the pandemic, the worst impacted are the children, because they are not able to get that kind of school life that we all enjoy. But their education has not come to a grinding halt. All of this is because of these changes. But if we look into any of these in detail, we will always see that there is this magic wand. How this is happening, why this is happening, and how there is something else which is catalyzing good things that are happening. This is true even if we look into our individual personal life, individual professional life. Pick examples that you wish to choose from your lives. See, the bamboo that Krishna converted into a beautiful flute, wonderful flute, and played melodious music is because the bamboo emptied itself to permit Krishna's breath to flow through it. When we empty our ego, then the beauty of God's work flows through, apparently for all of us to witness and to see. This is the concept of self-surrender or Sharanagati. emptying out, removing our ego, and saying that, oh God, it is you. Even when we get the best of accolades, within our own mind, we say, thank you, God. Without you, this would not have happened. Bhagavan says it's okay. Receive the pat on your back. Enjoy the unrivaled kingdom. Take all the glories. He is not seeking the glory. So when the world bestows glory on us, it is perfectly fine to take it, enjoy it, live with it. But in our heart, close to our heart, we should always remember, without you, O Bhagavan, this could not have happened. Thank you for that. Nimitta matram bhava. Of being constantly aware that it is Bhagavan and who makes all of this happen. It is this magic wand that is enabling all our accomplishments. And then when we do this, when we are able to master this, it would be easier and we would be able to attain more and more fame and honor. And Bhagavan says that, Yasho labhasva. Enjoy the fame and honor. So this is our sadhana for this chapter. For every chapter we have a sadhana. This is the sadhana for chapter 11. Nimitta matram bhava. Be an instrument in the hands of Bhagavan, in the Lord's hands. So another term that Bhagavan uses here is Savyasachin. Savyasachin, he calls Arjuna this ambidextrous expert. One who can wield his weapon and use his weapon with both hands. So he can take the arrow in his right hand, bow in his left hand and shoot, or vice versa, whichever way. So he's an expert. If you remember, or if you have seen Three Idiots, you will remember that principle, take both hands, has a pen and he starts writing 2 letters at the same time. That takes a lot of expertise. Without that, one cannot do that. So Arjuna is it also means that Arjuna is a great warrior. He's an expert. He's an expert soldier, the best of that era. In fact, the best of all eras too. Expert archer. A very high degree of expertise is what he has attained. And to attain this high degree of expertise in our area and having the sense of being an instrument in the hands of Bhagavan, they are complementary. The more we have the sense that I am an instrument in your hand, O Bhagavan, the more expert we become. The more we think I am doing it, the more limitation to our becoming a better expert in whatever we do. Such a person, nimitta matram bhava savyasachin, one who thinks he's an instrument in the hand of Bhagavan and an expert, this kind of an expert who is an instrument in the hands of the Lord is then able to serve the world. Live with a spirit of service. Remember, we talked about Yagya spirit. With that Yagya spirit, in constant awareness of Bhagavan. So, when I write these notes, like as we are doing the satsang, I'm also writing Bhagavad Gita, right? All of these notes and I'm sharing it with you. I write it on my iPad with this pencil. So, when I was reading this or when I was writing this, the thought came to my mind. It's like a pencil is what? Nothing but an instrument. So if you take M.F. Husain's paintings, what a big artist he is. The pencil, being an instrument in the hands of this expert, is able to produce that beautiful painting. Without that, that painting is not going to happen. Similarly, like the pencil is that instrument in the hands of a painter or an architect or a sketcher or whatever, or an author who writes, we have to be an instrument in the hands of Bhagavan. There is this beautiful peace prayer by Saint Francis of Assisi, and that goes, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is error, the truth. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal. You have to die for better things to happen. Constructive destruction. To be an instrument is to do without doing. Not being the doer while doing. Flashback, we have seen all this earlier. Bhagavan has taught us all this earlier. I will not deviate right now, but not being the doer while doing. When we dissolve the ego, the aroma, the beauty of Bhagavan's work emanates. And he gives an assurance now. We'll go to the next verse.
Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadrattam cha
Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadrattam cha
karnam tatanyan api yodhaviran
karnam tathanyanapi yodhaviran
maya hatam stvam jahima vyatishta
maya hatam tvam jahima vyatishta
yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnam
yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnan
Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadrattam cha karnam tatanyan api yodhaviran maya hatam stvam jahima vyatishta yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnam.
So Kushagra just in the chat quoted Virat Kohli. This is not a weapon. This is not a bat, it's a weapon. Very interesting. Yes, absolutely. And an instrument that enables success, instrument at the hands of the expert. So the expert, as far as this world is concerned, is who? Bhagavan. And if we can be an instrument in his hands, that's a privilege. So Bhagavan now says, Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadratam cha. This Drona and Bhishma and Jayadrata and Karna, all of them, Tathanyanapi, and others also. Others who? Yodhaviran, other brave warriors also. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and all other brave warriors. Maya, by me, Hatam, have been slain. And he says, you, Tvam, you, Jahi, kill. Ma Vyastitha, do not be anxious. Yudhyasva, fight. Sapatnan, enemies. Jitasi, you shall conquer. Rane, in the battle. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other brave warriors have already been slain by me. You kill. You do not be anxious. Fight, and you shall conquer your enemies in battle. Now, all these warriors, Arjuna is afraid of. And he is also unsure whether they should be conquered or not, whether he can conquer them all. All of these doubts he had. Bhagavan says they are already conquered. They are slain by me. Sri Krishna is actually clarifying. See, earlier we saw that all these, that almost gruesome depiction of these warriors getting ground, their heads getting cracked, they getting stuck in between the teeth of Bhagavan, Vishwarupa. Okay, a pretty gruesome description. Bhagavan is just clarifying that what you saw is not your hallucination. Don't worry about it. It was not something that you saw as an apparition. It is true. They are dead. They have all been killed by my large plans. And killing them is not contrary to Dharma. It is very much in alignment to Dharma. Because I have acquired this form to establish Dharma, to re-establish Dharma. And when I acquire this form to re-establish Dharma, the adharmic are the ones who are done away with. I do this for protection of Dharma. And you stand up, fight, be an instrument. See, Arjuna's worry is also whether they can be killed at all. There is a big logic in this. See, Drona is endowed with many multitude of weapons. Drona is Arjuna's teacher. Arjuna knows what he knows because of Drona. And he has weapons that Arjuna reveres. He looks up to. He knows the power of those weapons. So obviously he's scared. When you know that your teacher has this weapon, you are an expert, you don't have that weapon. The teacher has it. And he is your teacher. Obviously, you know the power of the teacher and you know the power of the instrument that he has. Bhishma, undefeated in battle till now, throughout his life, even by Parashurama. Further, Bhishma has been granted this boon by his father that death cannot appear in front of him without his own permission. So death has to seek permission from Bhishma. Only when he says yes can it come. Jayadratha's father had acquired this power through extreme tapas, that anyone who dares to kill his son, that person's head will be blown to smithers. So nobody who would dare to kill his son, because you kill him, you are going to die. Not just die, your head would be blown to millions of pieces. Karna has this weapon called Sakti that Lord Indra gave him. And that weapon is one of the most infallible and deadly weapons. And Karna is proclaimed that this I am keeping to kill Arjuna. He has told the whole world that this weapon is reserved for Arjuna. It is but natural for Arjuna to be anxious. Vyasthitha. And Bhagavan assures Arjuna, Yudhyasva jetasi. Fight and you shall definitely conquer. So Bhagavan assures all of us, do our duty, you will come successful. Through Arjuna, all this Bhagavad Gita is a message for us also. So Bhagavan assures all of us here that you do your duty, you will emerge victorious. So when Arjuna hears this, he again becomes spellbound, absolutely speechless. Obviously, because see, sometimes in life when we get unprecedented support, suppose tomorrow Narendra Modi comes and tells me, hey, you are doing this job, great, I am with you. What will happen? I will be like flabbergasted, completely spellbound. Krishna is telling Arjuna, you do it, I am there. I am telling you that you will be successful. So this kind of assurance of success, that makes Arjuna spellbound. Now Arjuna had actually chosen to be on Krishna's side, or rather asked for Krishna to be on his side. When Duryodhana, there is the story when Duryodhana and Arjuna went to Sri Krishna to solicit help. And Arjuna happened to be, or chose to be, at the foot of Bhagavan. And because he saw him first, he said, Arjuna, ask what you want. And Arjuna said, and he was given a choice, do you want me to be on your side or my entire army? Arjuna, to the thrill, the glee of Duryodhana, chose Krishna, not the army. And Duryodhana was extremely happy to make do with the army. Or actually, he said, oh, thank God he chose. I would have chosen the same thing. It's like, winning the toss and, if you're the captain and say, I'm going to field, but you lose the toss and the opposing captain says, I'll bat. Oh, thank you very much. That was the situation of Duryodhana, right? Thank you. So he chose Krishna anyway. But at that time, he didn't know who this Sri Krishna is. He didn't have a full import, a full understanding of this Krishna. Now he does. And with this understanding, now he knows, hey, this who I chose over and above the army. And look at him. And he is completely flabbergasted, completely spellbound. And again, the beauty of poetry, Sanjaya steps in. So Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Etat shrutva vachanam Keshavasya.
Etat shrutva vachanam Keshavasya.
Kritanjalir vipamana kiriti.
Kritanjalir vipamana kiriti.
Namaskritva bhuya evaha Krishnam.
Namaskritva bhuya evaha Krishnam.
Sagadgadam bhita bhita pranamye.
Sagadgadam bhita bhita pranamya.
Sanjaya uvacha etat shrutva vachanam keshavasya kritanjalirvepamana kiriti namaskritva bhuya evaha krishnam sagadgadam bhita bhita pranamya.
Sanjaya vacha. Sanjaya says. And Sanjaya speaking to who? To Dhritarashtra. Shrutva, having heard. Etat, that. Vachanam, speech. Keshavasya, of Keshava. Kiriti, the crowned one. He is referring to Arjuna. Arjuna is the king. Kritanjale, with folded palms, with joined hands. Vipamana, trembling. Namaskritva, prostrating himself. Bhuya, again. Pranamya, again and again prostrating. Evaha, then he addressed. Evaha, then addressed. Addressed who? Krishnam, Krishna. Sagadgadam, in a choked voice. Bhita bhitaha, overwhelmed with fear. Sanjaya said, having heard the speech of Krishna, of Keshava, the crowned one, Arjuna, with joined palms, trembling and prostrating to Krishna again and again and again, addressed Krishna in a choked voice, overwhelmed with fear. So he uses the word Kiriti. Kiriti means the crowned one, a monarch. Normally, everyone bows to the monarch. Here, the crowned one, the monarch, is bowing to Sri Krishna. Not just bowing to Sri Krishna, prostrating again and again and again and again. Every word of his, which he's saying with choked voice, is he's prostrating, getting up, speaking. Prostrating, getting up, speaking. Prostrating, getting up, speaking. See, the Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra. This is a beautiful, actually some of us friends were discussing this earlier. This Dhritarashtra is the one who could have prevented the war. Not even Duryodhana. Duryodhana was crazy. We all know that. He got everything he wanted, still he wanted more. Ego. Okay, he wanted the destruction. He didn't want his prosperity. The destruction of his cousins was bigger than his own success and his own thriving. But Dhritarashtra, Bhishma is not fighting for Duryodhana. Drona is not fighting for Duryodhana. They are aligned to the throne. The ruler of the throne is Dhritarashtra. That is the reason why Dhritarashtra is being given an Ankho Dekha Hal of the war. Because at some point in time, maybe this king will get the sense to call off the war. The only one who can call off the war is Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya tries once again. He has tried earlier also. As the emissary of Dhritarashtra, he went to the Pandavas, came back and said, "O king, my advice to you would be not to get into this war." He has said that earlier also. Wise counsel Dhritarashtra got from everyone, but he was too attached to the selfish demands of his son that this wise counsel never made an impact. And Sanjaya tries once again. And how does he try? He paints a picture of Arjuna. Who is Arjuna? Arjuna is the most accomplished warrior of his time, the best archer of his time, better than all the Kauravas and Pandavas put together. And Sanjaya says that Arjuna is trembling with fear in front of Sri Krishna. And who is Sri Krishna? The bosom buddy of Arjuna. So Arjuna, the warrior, the fierce warrior, the best of the best of the best, in front of his friend Krishna, is shaking and trembling with fear. So Sanjaya is hoping that this Dhritarashtra will imagine his own sons. If Arjuna ka hal ye hai, if that is his plight, what would happen to the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra? And if not as a king, at least as a father who is blind in the love of his son, for the welfare of his son, will call off the war. But no, Dhritarashtra is still oblivious to the real consequences of the war. So coming back, what does Arjuna is saying? So Arjuna is addressing Krishna. The body language has been described by Sanjaya. But what exactly does Arjuna say? So in 11 verses, the next 11 verses from verse 36 to 46, Arjuna breaks into a most beautiful song of worship, among the finest prayers ever. And we are privileged to read all of that. Some of it we'll cover today, a couple of those verses, the rest of them in the next satsang. So we go to verse 36.
Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna uvacha
Tane Hrishikesha tava prakirtya
Tane Hrishikesha tava prakirtya
Jagat prahasyatyanurajyate cha
Jagat prahirshyatyanurajyate cha
Rakshamsi bhitani disho dravanti
Rakshamsi bhitani disho dhravanti
Sarve namashyanti cha siddha sanghaha
Sarve namasyanti cha siddha sanghaha.
Arjuna uvacha Stane Hrishikesha tava prakritya Jagat prahrishyatyanurajyate cha Rakshamsi bhitani disho dravanti Sarve namashyanti cha siddha sanghaha.
O Hrishikesha, Hrishikesha, Sthane, everything is in order. Tava, in thy, Prakirtya, praise, glorification. Jagat, the world. Prahirshyatya, Prahirshyatya is delighted. Anurajyate, rejoices, is delighted and rejoices. Cha is and. And then Rakshasami, the Rakshasas, Dravanti, they are fleeing. Disho, in all directions. Sarve Disho, in all directions. Bhitani, in fear. Siddha Sanghaha and Cha and Siddha Sanghaha, the hosts of Siddhas, the accomplished. Namashyanti, bow to you. O Hrishikesha, everything is order, everything is fitting. In your praise and glorification, the entire world delights and rejoices. The Rakshasas flee in fear in all directions. And the hosts of the accomplished bow to you. Hrishikesha, this is how Arjuna addresses Krishna here. We have seen in so many places the choice of how Arjuna addresses Krishna. It's so beautiful. Hrishikesha is the Lord of perception. Isha means the Lord. Hrishika means 5 sense organs and the mind. Together are Hrishika. Which through the 5 sense organs and the mind is what we are able to perceive the world that is external to us. So thus, this Hrishikesha is the indwelling consciousness. The Lord of this perception is the indwelling consciousness. Antaryami. The Lord who is inside, knowing everything, propelling everything. One who knows in and through, the all-knower. That is Hrishikesha. So that's how beautifully Arjuna is addressing Krishna here. See, and then he talks about Rakshasas, running away. So when the tribals, I was just thinking, the first time an aeroplane flew over the forest, which is inhabited with tribals, what can we have imagined that would have happened? The tribals would have been terrified and they would have run helter-skelter. What is this craft that is making this huge? We have seen birds, but birds are pleasant. This gigantic machine with this thunder kind of a sound, they would have been terrified and run helter-skelter. Some people who have knowledge about this aircraft, they would have stood and watched and they would have been marveling at that, leap of humankind through science. And the pilot and people who are the engineers who are enabling the aircraft to fly, they are actually working with the aircraft itself. That's their job. Similarly, Rakshasas, Arjuna portrays beautifully. The Rakshasas are flying, running helter-skelter to their own ruin, to their own detriment. The knowing devotees of Bhagavan, the knowledgeable devotees of Bhagavan, admire his macrosmic creation and rejoice in that creation. Like these knowledgeable people about aircraft rejoice in this marvel of an aeroplane. And the highly accomplished, the Siddhas, they pay their reverence. How do you pay reverence? By working with the Lord for the Lord's cause as an instrument in his hand. So the Rakshasas fly, normal people rejoice in this Hrishikesha Bhagavan, and the highly accomplished Siddhas pay their reverence by working with him for his cause as an instrument. And why should they do so? Arjuna addresses that in the next verse.
Kasmachatena nameran mahatman.
Kasmachatena nameran mahatman.
Gariyase brahmanopyadikartre.
Gariyase brahmanopyadikartre.
Anantadevesha jagannivasa.
Anantadevesha jagannivasa.
Tvamaksharam sadasattatparam yat.
Tvamaksharam sadasattatparam yat.
Kasmachatena nameran mahatman. Gariyase brahmanopyadikartre. Anantadevesha jagannivasa. Tvamaksharam sadasattatparam yat.
And Arjuna says, and cha, kasmach, why would tena, they not, nameran, prostrate, mahatman, O great soul, ananta, O infinite being, devesha, O Lord of the lords, jagannivasa, O abode of this universe, gariyase, greater, brahmanopi, than Brahma, also greater than Brahma, also greater than him. Adi Kartre, the primal cause. Tvam, you are. Aksharam, imperishable. Sadasat, the gross and the subtle. Tat Param Yat, that which is supreme. Sad is the gross, Asat is the subtle. Tat, that, Yat, which is Param, supreme. So Arjuna says, Kasmachate na nameran. Why? And why would they not prostrate? See, the urge to praise Ishvara rises spontaneously. Why would they not? So obvious. Only the Rakshasas are running helter-skelter. It rises spontaneously in the minds of devotees. And why does it rise spontaneously in the mind of devotees? Because he is Mahatman, one with a large heart, the all-compassionate, the greatest. He is Ananta, the infinite. He transcends time, space, causation, all of it. Because he is Devesha, the Lord of all gods. Arjuna had said, I see Brahma in you, I see Shiva in you, in your Vishwarupa. That God of all gods. Jagannivasa, one in whom the entire universe resting. And then Arjuna says, Gariyase Brahmanopi, one who is greater than even Brahma, Lord Brahma, even more worshipful than Lord Brahma. Why? See, he can't just make an open statement like this and get away. So he explains why. Because you are Adi Kartre. Adi Kartre, the primal cause. The Brahma is the cause of all creation. He is the creator. You, O Bhagavan, you Hrishikesha, you are the creator of the creator. You are the God of gods, the creator of the creator. Adi Kartre. Tvamaksharam, you are the imperishable, immutable reality. Tvam Sadasat, You are the gross and the subtle. The gross is the perceptible, the cognizable, what the sense organs and the mind, the rishika, what they can perceive. The entire manifested world is the gross. The subtle is one or which that cannot be perceived, that cannot be comprehended, the unmanifest. You are both. And not only you are both, tat paramyat, you are supreme. Higher than the gross and the higher than the subtle. That means you are the causal. See, parents are said to be worshipful. The boss, see, parents are the creator. For anybody, the parent is the creator. So they are said to be worshipful. The boss, who is the controller, is said to be also worshipful. The guru or the teacher is indeed worshipful. And Bhagavan is all of this. Plus, Arjuna says, you are the greatest Mahatman, the infinite Ananta, the God of gods, Devesha, the substratum of all, Jagannivasa, greater than the creator, Kariyese Brahmanopi, the creator of the creator, Adi Kartre, imperishable, Aksharam, the manifest and the unmanifest, Sadasat, the supreme cause, Paramyat. Why would anyone not but worship you? There is the story about a sea captain, who after his retirement skippered a boat that carries tourists to an island. On one such trip, there were a bunch of youngsters, young people, very typically impatient, boisterous, and as per habit, the captain would always say a prayer before sailing. And these kids were laughing at the captain, nudging each other, nudging the captain in their impatience to finish it fast. This day is beautiful, it's fine, the sea is so calm, let's get out there. However, they went too long into the sea when a huge storm suddenly blew in and the boat was rolling and pitching uncontrollably, violently. The terrified passengers came to the captain and requested him to join them in prayer. And the old captain replies, I say my prayers when it's calm. When it is rough, I attend to my ship. That is my prayer. If we do not see God when times are easy, we are most likely not going to be able to find him when trouble strikes. Actually, at that time, we'll panic because we have been given to this attitude. We have to remember him throughout our Mamanusmara Yudhyacha. Throughout our lives, Bhagavan has told us earlier, Mamanusmara Yudhyacha. If we do that, whenever there is trouble, including at the end of our life, we will remember him. And if we understand that he is this worshipful Bhagavan, then he will be with us all through. Good times, bad times, happy times, at all times. So like Arjuna, let us all revel in the worship of this worshipful Bhagavan. Hari Om, thank you. We'll continue in the next satsang. We will recite the verses and...
So verses 31 to 37 of chapter 11. Abhahi me ko bhavanugra rupaha namostu te deva vara prasida vijñātumicchāmi bhavantamadhyam nahi prajanami tava pravrittim. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddhaha lokan samahartumiha pravrittaha ritipi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve yevastita pratyanikeshu yodhaha tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samriddham mayyaivaite nihita purvameva nimittamatram bhavasavya Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadratam cha karnam tatanyaan abhiyodavidan maya hatamstvam jahima vyatishta yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnan Sanjaya uvacha एतत् श्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमाना किरीटी नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णं सगद्गदं भीतभीतप्रणम्य अर्जुन उवाच स्थाने हृषीकेश तव प्रकृत्या जगत्प्रहृष्यत्यनुरज्यते च रक्षांसि भीतानि दिशो द्रवन्ति सर्वे नमस्यन्ति च सिद्धसङ्गाः कस्माच्च तेनान्नमरन्महात्मन् गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास त्वमक्षरं सदसत्तत्परं यत् ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om. Thank you. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Radhika, you're speaking something, you're on mute.
Yeah. I have a question, and this is from verse 33. So you mentioned that the big things and the good things and the big achievements, it all happens because of the presence of supreme power. So does it mean bad things or unpleasant things, they do happen? What's at play? Who's responsible for all that?
See, so you're saying this is with respect to verse 33, right? No, I didn't say that good things happen because of the supreme power. I said be an instrument in the hands of Bhagwan and you will succeed. That is what Bhagwan says. Be an instrument in my hand. So anyway, let me take a step back. Yes, the good thing, the bad thing, everything, right? Remember when we did the vibhutis of Bhagwan. Bhagwan says, I am everything. Among the vices, I am gambling. Right? I mean, he picks and chooses and he highlights various aspects of the good and also of the not so good or the bad, where he points out how he is pervading everything. So if Bhagwan is pervading everything, then he's pervading the good, the bad, and the ugly. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. But this verse is a slightly different interpret. What here we say is Bhagwan says, whatever is happening is my grand plan. My grand plan is happening irrespective of you. And my grand plan, destruction is part of that my grand plan. Destruction at whatever scale. Destruction happens at various scales. Destruction happens at a personal disaster level. You know, it could be a loss in a match or a loss of profit or someone close dying, passing away. Destruction can happen at a society level like a corona pandemic or a bomb exploding or war. Destruction could happen at a planet level like a pandemic. I said it earlier, not located geographically, but throughout the planet. And destruction could be all ending also, the ultimate pralaya. Right? Like that heat death. The heat dies, right? So at whatever scale it happens, it happens. And Bhagwan pervades all of this. But what he is saying here is, since everything is as per my grand plan, you be an instrument in my hands. And when you are an instrument in my hands, you will definitely succeed. That is the assurance, that is the statement that he's making here. That is the statement he's making here, and he assures, the assurance follows in the next verse. And we have also seen that as much as we, some of us, Kushagra took the example of Virat Kohli. It is being said that it is the ego of Virat Kohli that has, of late kind of become a problem in his success. Otherwise, he's supposed to be a genius, right? But both in terms of individual form as well in terms of captaincy, it's the ego of Novak Djokovic that, I will not see. It's very well proven by now that there is no harm in taking the vaccine. You don't lose anything. And looks like humanity is gaining by taking the vaccine. There is enough evidence for that. But Djokovic says, no, I will not take. Why? That's my private reason. I will not tell you. So now he's being told, get out of Australia. You are a risk to humanity there. So you cannot play. So when you allow your ego to come into play, when you cease to be an instrument in Bhagwan's hands, when you cease to be an instrument in Bhagwan's hands, your own performance level goes down.
Okay, on what you said, let's say everything that happens is a part of a grand plan. Now, how do I differentiate my ego and my intelligence? It can be confusing, right? So I can think something and say, this is the intelligent choice, then I'll go ahead and do something. And how do I differentiate that? How do I know if this is as per the plan, I should just go ahead and do it or just follow it?
There is no need to differentiate. You please use your intelligence and do what your intelligence tells you to do. Because Bhagwan is pervading your intelligence also, by the way. So give it that way. Say, Bhagwan, this is your intelligence I'm using. So use it. Say, this is your intelligence, Bhagwan, that I'm using, and use it. But once you use your intelligence and do something, don't say, I did it. Even if the entire world is coming and patting your back and saying, awesome, Radhika, you are the awesome, you are the best. Say, thank you. Take it. Bhagwan says, take it, accept it, rule the world. Enjoy the yasha that comes your way. But in your mind, in your heart, say, thank you, Lord. Without you, this would not have been possible. I am your instrument. I am only carrying out your action, your plan.
Got it.
Srini, I have two questions.
Yeah, Pandu.
You mentioned about Bhishma and Drona fighting on, because they are on behalf of they are part of the king's year, they're following the king's loyalty. Now, is this dharma or is it their karma? Okay, that is one question. Second is, Karna also fights on behalf of the Kauravas. So, is he in the same league, or is it same as what Bhishma and Dronacharya are, or is he in a way different?
So, I would say, so it is your first question, is it their dharma or is it their karma? So it is their dharma because of their dharmic. Bhishma, because of his, Bhishma has taken an oath that I will align and I will give my life, I will do whatever I do, I live, breathe, die for the kingdom of Hastinapur. That is the oath that he has taken. Okay, and for that oath, he did not marry. For that oath, he did not have children. For that oath, he fought against the Pandavas, against Krishna. For that oath. That is the dharma which enables, which guides him to make the choice that he is making. Now, why did he get into this position where he has to take that oath? That probably is his karma, because of which, he is in that position anyway. The position where we are is not up to us. What we do given where we are is up to us. So where we are is because of our karma. What we do where we are should be followed by our dharmic principles. Given where we are, if we choose adharma, then we will go towards destruction. Given where we are, if we choose dharma, we will go towards prosperity and towards Bhagwan. Now, coming to your point about karma, absolutely. Karna is indebted to Duryodhana. Because of two. One is that Karna is brilliant archer, almost as good as Arjuna, if not as good as Arjuna. And the fact is that because of his karma, Karna was denied that privilege of what Arjuna achieved or got in his life. Even though he wanted to be a student of Drona, he could not be a student of Drona. Even though he wanted to do many things, he couldn't do, probably because of his karma. But given that at that situation, Duryodhana came up and said, Duryodhana did for various other reasons. Because anyone who is against Pandavas, so the enemy of the enemy is a friend. That was Duryodhana's reason. But for Karna, Duryodhana stood up and protected him and helped him and made him a king. While everybody else was, abusing him as Sutaputra, quote unquote, abusing him, Duryodhana said, you are my friend, and put his arms over his shoulder. So Karna is now indebted to his friend, and that is his dharma, to be with his friend. So as much as Bhishma and Drona, Karna also, was dharmic in terms of fighting with the Kauravas. He refused, even when Kunti came to beg him. She told him that you are my son. These are your brothers. He said, thank you, I'm privileged to be your son. For whatever reason, you discarded me. But I have to be with my friend in the war because I have to be dharmic in, that is my dharma. So yes, the answer is yes. He also was by the side of dharma in that sense.
Can I have a follow-up question? I don't know to get into. Yeah, so maybe I missed out somewhere earlier. Now, since all these three are following their dharma, so is it okay to follow your dharma even though you are on the wrong side?
Yes, it's like okay. This is a very specific particular question. Okay, you should always follow and abide by dharma. Always, whether you are on the right side, wrong side, irrespective of which side you're on, you have to be dharmic in your, and that is what will help you in your growth, in your soul's growth, in your soul's journey. That is what will help you ultimately. Specifically, we can discuss instances or specific situations, but in general, yes, it is said that you live in a righteous manner, you follow dharma, irrespective of what the environment is. So Vibhishna's dharma was to go against Ravana, and he did. Kumbhakarna's dharma was to fight for Ravana, and he did.
Yeah, thanks.
Kushagra said one more thing. A beautiful quote sums this up, the earlier discussion. In a war of ego, the loser always wins.
Yeah, and hi Srini. I would like to add to one thing on the discussion that you were having with Panduranga sir about Karna. So there's a beautiful prose by Tagore called Kahini. If people can read it, that's a good reference point, and they say about the dharma of Karna, who on one end is fighting the battle with the Kaurava, but there's a dialogue that he has with Kunti on just before he dies in the battle, and that kind of gives a bipartite view of whether Karna, being a Pandava, was fighting for the Kauravas. So please fill in if I'm wrong in any way.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you. Will do. If you could text it in the group, that will be helpful.
Yeah. And I'll just try to find it out.
I admire the width of knowledge and reading that you have, Kushagra. You come up with these ones, brilliant ones.
Oh, thank
So
you.
You said Tagore, right?
Yeah, Tagore and Kahini. I'll search for that prose. There's a beautiful Hindi prose, it's like 20-25 lines, which gives the discussion between Karna and Kunti, and it's a very prose form, so very attractive to read as well. I'll search for that and try sharing it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, if nothing else, thank you all, Hari Om, and we shall meet next Saturday to continue with chapter 11. Hari Om.